Hey guys, welcome back to the video, and this video is a spoiler review and recap of The Boys episode 4. But before you get into it, if you guys are new to, make sure to subscribe button, notifications on, and also if you didn't know, I'm giving away this Billy Butcher Funko Pop. All you have to do to enter is basically comment on every single one of my The Boys spoiler reviews, and every single comment will be another entry into the giveaway. And at the end of the season, during my finale reaction, at the end of the video, I'll be announcing the giveaway winner, and I'll go ahead and DM you on Instagram, get your shipping information, and then we can handle it from there. But again, all you have to do is subscribe and comment on my The Boys videos to win this Billy Butcher Funko Pop. But without wasting more time, let's get into it talking spoilers about The Boys Season 3, Episode 4. So yeah, this episode is just another crazy episode in this show. I think that I still like Episode 3 just a little bit more, but if I think I rewatch this episode, I think I'll like it a little bit more. So you basically start off this episode by finding out that Huey found out that Butcher actually has powers, and I think this is the point at which you kind of realize, like, okay, Huey's life has gone into such trash that he's probably going to start taking V, and by the middle to end of this episode, we find out that he did start taking V, and we actually get to see him use his superpowers at the end of the episode, but we'll get to that later. I think, honestly, one of the most surprising parts of this episode was seeing Homelander, Huey, and Starlight all in the same room. I mean, obviously, we saw him in the first episode at the press conference thing for Dawn of the Seven, the red carpet event thing, but it was cool to see them all interact after the ending of last episode, and I really liked that. It was super hilarious. And Starlight still threatened Homelander just a little bit. I mean, obviously, we find out towards the end of the episode that Homelander is getting even crazier, and he threatens her even more. But at the beginning of this episode, Starlight actually threatens him with taking all of her points, like her popularity points, leaving Homelander and taking all the popularity points with her. And now obviously he didn't really like that because he's getting into this crazy mindset, and we see that play out even more in this episode. So I'm excited to talk about that towards the end. But we also get the Pepsi ad in this episode, and I just started laughing so much when this came on screen. I was so excited. I've been waiting for this ad the entire season because they marketed a little bit of it, and it's just hilarious. I love how they're taking these real world events, putting it in this fictional world, and still making it super duper funny. But I will say, I still really love A-Train's whole storyline, kind of him wanting to help out his neighborhood, and honestly them implementing the entire Black Lives Matter movement into this show. They're implementing it really well, whether they're making fun of it or actually trying to have a purpose with it. And it feels like it's just not being implemented for being implemented. It's not implemented for just like, oh, the show talked about this. Like, it's actually utilizing it in A-Train's storyline, and he's doing it really well. And towards the end of this episode, we obviously realize that he betrays Starlight and Alex, but I still think that A-Train's storyline is really cool. And as a whole, I'm excited to see where his character goes, because I did rewatch seasons 1 and 2 before this, because I'll be ranking them after this season finishes. But I really love A-Train's arc throughout, honestly, this entire show, and that's why I'm really excited to see what they're doing. And I like how he has this underlying storyline of wanting to actually help his community while he's still kind of going against people in the Seven, like he did Starlight at the end of this episode. But we also get more of the Frenchie storyline, and it's actually been evolved, and I really like that. So this is like Frenchie's like plug lady, that's what I'm gonna call her, because I forgot her name completely. But I like how the story has evolved. Now she's actually helping them get to Soldier Boy and stuff like that, and it's very cool how they're playing that storyline out. Because if you guys watched last week's video where I talked about episodes 1 through 3, I was not the biggest fan of that storyline, and if anything, that was the only storyline that I genuinely just wasn't a fan of in the first 2 episodes. It was the only boring part of any of the episodes for me. But this episode, it felt like it paid off, and I said last week that if it pays off, I'll admit to my wrongs, and here I am admitting to it, because I like how it's played out. I think it's utilized very well in the grand scheme of the show, and kind of like bringing everything together, kind of closing all ties. I think it works here. And then we also get the fight between Kimiko and that old dude and a bunch of the bodyguards. It is a hilarious fight. It is so funny, and I like Kimiko's character development in this season so far. I think it's done really well. I think her and Frenchie's storylines are very minimally progressed. Like, I feel like it's always the same thing with them two, which is kind of like, they're kind of, honestly, they're learning to be more human as the show goes on. And I think it really works because they kind of feel like the only characters in the show that are learning to be human instead of just learning through human mistakes. makes sense. They feel like they're actually transforming into people, becoming new, like holistically, like ideally, it feels like becoming new. Whereas the other characters evolving themselves, these characters feel like becoming something different, and I really like that. And then we have like the big twist this episode where we find out that Homelander actually outed Vought, and Stan Edgar actually got arrested, and Homelander sees Vought as a superhero company first. He basically takes the lead because we have this little dialogue scene between Stan and Homelander later in this episode, and I don't want to specifically talk about that because it's not too important. I found this also very funny when Homelander said it's the dawn of the Seven, because it was kind of like a rebirth of the Seven, which is really, really funny to me. And then we actually find out that Victoria Newman was not actually Stan's daughter, and she was just a weapon created, because we obviously know that she can explode heads. She's a soup. We learned that last season, and we got a little bit more of that in episode 1, but I really like her inclusion in this season so far. And the second 2 episodes from last week, episodes 2 and 3, she wasn't really in them much, or at least as much as I wanted to after her huge impact at the end of episode 1, but we got a lot more of her this episode, and I'm very, very happy about that. And then we actually see Huey watch Butcher take V, or he kind of catches him take V, and Huey has this little monologue where he's like, literally his life sucks, like absolute dog shit, but he wants to take the V because it'll make him feel powerful, stuff like that. Just, it feels like obviously regular, like I want to take this thing so it'll make me feel better type of character arc. We get to first-handedly see Huey almost get lasered in half by Homelander right in front of Starlight, and at the end of this episode we know that Starlight does get threatened by Homelander. But I just love Huey's character so much, and I'm so excited to see what they do with him in the future because of his superpowers now. But before we talk specifically about superpowers, we got to get into this introduction of Soldier Boy. So obviously, we find out that Huey took the V, but before this, Butcher actually has to come out and kind of expose himself to Mother's Milk, Frenchie, Kamiko, all the boys that he has powers, because he has to save all of them with his laser eyes, bulletproof, super strength, all that kind of stuff. And it is so cool. I don't know what it is, dude. It's just the way that they use his powers, and how subtle like he is before he uses them, and then how crazy he goes and how subtle he gets back. I think it's just the acting from Carl Urban. It is just so cool. But back to Huey's powers really quick. His powers are absolutely hilarious. He like turns mini, teleports to another place, and he like loses all of his clothes. Like, it's only his body that moves. Nothing on top of him actually moves, and it's hilarious. And I can't wait to see the action that happens with that in the rest of this season. But then obviously Soldier Boy is released, but they don't necessarily take Soldier Boy. Soldier Boy is escaped from the facility because he blasts Kamiko, and Kamiko's not healing, so the boys take a truck and escape. Huey is like on some acid type of thing with his new powers. Mother's Milk doesn't want to be part of this team anymore. Frenchie is just absolutely losing his for Kamiko barely staying alive, and then Butcher is driving the truck, basically thinking about what he's done by I feel like taking this V and exposing himself to the boys. And then this is where we get to the jaw-dropping moment of this episode, because then we cut to seeing Homelander killed Alex. That was insane. Throughout this entire episode, this whole plan against Homelander was getting bigger and bigger. Maeve told Starlight, and then Starlight told Alex, and Alex told A-Train. Homelander literally threatens Huey's life to Starlight and says, I'll turn Huey into what I did to Alex. And it was just insanity. Overall, this episode was just phenomenal. It is another just absolutely awesome show from this series. Also, come back and comment on each of the videos so you can get a chance to enter for this Billy Butcher Funko Pop. But yeah, guys, that's it for my review on The Boys Season 3 Episode 4. Again, let me know what you thought of it in the comments down below. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Peace.